prefers not to chair this, is not feeling well. So I'm going to ask for a motion to appoint Councillor Galloway-Seelock. Dan? Oh, sorry. Yeah, got it. Hang on a second, get the mouse working. How's your voice? Can you speak up?
I'm happy to move that Councillor Galloway-Seelock chair this meeting.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And I will be back momentarily.
Okay, so start of community and infrastructure services. We have 6 consent items. Someone want to move those? Moved by Councillor Glenn Graham. Are there any questions? Councillor Gazzola?
I wanted to know about the public art conservation planning. We've hired a consultant to look at this. What did we pay the consultant?
Sylvia?
Through the chair, the conservator's services came in at $20,000.
I'm just curious as to why we had to hire a consultant, why we couldn't do the bulk of this ourselves.
Through the chair, the conservator's role is called into play for a very specific set of skills that don't exist within the City of Kitchener, and they specialize in assessing the condition and understanding very thoroughly how the various materials would need to be maintained or restored.
We have what, 52 pieces of art, works of art?
Through the chair, we have 30 public art and 22 industrial artifacts.
What have we spent in the past? Well, first, how long have we had this artwork?
Through the chair, the age of the artwork varies. The public art as a collection and the industrial artifacts, I believe, date back to the 90s. Some specific to the construction of the City Hall, others that have been in place for many years, such as the mural in the library.
Well, what have we spent on this in the past?
Through the chair, I suppose we could bring that back to show more detail on any restoration work that has been done.
Yeah, I'm concerned that we're setting aside more money than we need to in this area. Like those industrial artifacts, we're not intending to keep those in working condition, are we?
Through the chair, the industrial artifacts represent a more homogeneous collection where most of the work has to do with paint in order to restore them just due to wear and tear and weathering over the years, not necessarily to be operational, as I understand.
Yeah. Well, this is why I really question the necessity to be hiring a consultant. I think the majority of this artwork that we have is of that type, and I had it figured out. I don't know if we've got $100,000 and we're going to be putting in, I don't know how much over the next few years. I'd rather see the money spent on artwork than on putting money away to maintain it. So that's fine, thank you. I won't support that. If you'll deal with that one separately, okay?
Any other questions for that one specifically? Okay. On the artwork? Okay. Councillor Fernandez?
Yes, I don't know. I came in a couple minutes late, so I don't know if this question has been asked about what the cost of those consultants were.
It was $20,000.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I had was, it says the program will be on page 4-2, third fourth paragraph, the program will be implemented in stage beginning with the most urgent repairs. Who's going to be deciding what is urgent and what is not?
Through the chair, the conservator established for us those repairs that would be the most urgent and would be addressed as a first priority.
So that was part of the work that he did for us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Etherington, is yours on this item as well?
Madam Chair, we have some fabulous public art, and there's no point in having public art unless you're going to maintain it. So I fully approve this report.
Okay, thank you. We're going to deal with that one separately, so.
Of the
Go ahead.
of the report, is it possible for council to see that?
Can council get a copy of their consultant report?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Okay, Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I just didn't want to let it slide by with respect to item number 6, the Safe and Healthy Community Advisory Committee. It was about a year and a half ago, I guess, that the future of this committee was in question. I, as well as Councillor Singh, sit on this committee, and it has been re-energized, and we have a lot of actionable items coming forward. Part of my concern originally was there seemed to be a preoccupation with safety issues as it related especially to downtown, and part of my concern was that our downtown is now safe. It's more of a perception than a reality, and I thought that the committee at the time was going further in terms of making that better than worse. However, we have now refocused the committee's refocused on community centers and that sort of thing, and helping suburban Kitchener a little bit more in terms of the healthy aspect of living. So I'm happy to see it before us, and I'm happy that the committee is continuing.
Okay. Councillor Fernandez.
Yes, this is on item number 5, the school pedestrian safety. I'm really pleased that our staff has taken a look at the situation around J.W. Girth School, and that we are going to be getting a full an adult crossing guard. But I have mentioned to Mr. Sherman, I wanted to mention it again to staff, that we also need to be really looking at the Dune Village, Dune South crossing. Presently there is nothing there. I think that with these grade 5s and 6s crossing at that location, we've identified already through even the Homer Watson steering committee the number of cars that are coming through that intersection that are going to Homer Watson and the speeds that they're coming through there. So I sincerely hope that that's another location we'll be seeing some full size, an adult crossing guard at that location. Thank you.
Ms. Houston, did you want to comment on that?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's certainly something we will look at and bring back.
Councillor Singh.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to echo what Councillor Davies already said for Safe and Healthy Community Advisory Committee. It's a tremendous change that the committee has had over the last year, with quite a few new members that have brought a lot of vigor and energy to the committee, and it just shows you that I'm really glad that this council gave support and gave them a chance, a second chance at life, and the way they've turned things around, the new aspects of changing the terms of reference and focusing more on the neighborhood and community aspect. It's quite exciting what's happening at the committee, and I'd encourage you all to take a chance and attend one of the committee meetings, and you'll be very surprised as well as encourage what our citizens and how engaged and how involved they are now through that committee.
Councillor Fernandez.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to mention this about the makeup of the Health and Safety Committee. You've got down only one resident living in any of the other suburban wards other than those listed above. And since your focus is not just on the downtown area anymore, can I ask why you would only go with one resident living in other suburban wards? Why not go to 2 so that it reflects possibly a more diverse variety of resident opinions and concerns?
Mr. Hildebrand.
Through you, Madam Chair, this is a minimum. It's not a maximum.
Okay, good to know. Thanks. So we can put 2 in there, and then if we only get 1, we can do that? Okay, so do I have to make a recommendation or a motion to change that in the policy?
Just make an amendment.
Okay, I'd like to make that amendment, then that a minimum of 2 residents living from other suburban wards be included in that.
Okay, I'm going to assume that there's no objection from the mover, which was Councillor Glenn Graham. Okay. So we will deal with number 4 first, which is the public art conservation planning. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And the rest of the report, all of those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, we're now going to move to item number 7, which is the Forest Heights Collegiate Pool Library parking lot renovation. Mr. Hildebrand?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. During the 2012 budget deliberation, staff brought an issue paper forward for Council's consideration regarding the Forest Heights Collegiate parking lot, which both the pool, library, and some of our outdoor field facility participants use. In the issue paper, staff recommended placing aside $50,000 to contribute to the repair of the parking lot, given the number of city-owned facilities that use the lot. Because the final costs were unknown at the time, staff also indicated in the issue paper that if a larger contribution was needed, we would return to Council with more information. The report outlines the scope of the work, which includes elements important to the use from our pool and library and field use patrons. Besides the repavement of the lot, this project includes lighting, curbing, and sidewalks, which is very important for the young families and seniors who access the site throughout the year, especially in the evening and in the winter months. Because a formal agreement regarding the parking lot is not in place, staff is suggesting that our contribution be based on estimated use of the parking lot, considering number of spaces required by our facilities and the estimated time used. Based on this estimate, staff suggested that we fund around 75 parking spaces, which, as the report suggests, is similar to the size of the Dune Pioneer Park Neighborhood Association parking lot, which serves the community center, library, and mini fields across the road. The low bid for the project received from the school board was $472,000 approximately. In order to meet the additional funding requirements for 75 spaces, staff is suggesting we reprioritize $45,000 from the Community Programs and Services General Provisions account, access $22,400 from capital contingency. The library has also agreed to contribute an extra $15,000 to the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Councillor Gazzola?
What happened to this project? We hurriedly approved it in 2012, and here it's 2014. It's still out there. What happened?
Through you, Madam Chair, the project has a very small window of opportunity to get done, considering the school year and also use. There were some bumps in the road while they were getting the project approved, the different approvals, and had to be delayed until this year.
Well, why don't we have a formal agreement with the school board?
Right now, through you, Madam Chair, I'm not sure I can answer that question, why we don't have a formal agreement. Right now, what is happening and what is working is that the school is maintaining the parking lot, plowing it and doing all of those things, and things seem to be working quite well. We do have an agreement with regards to field use and field maintenance, however.
I don't know how much they're flowering there. Anyhow, I'm concerned. My major concern here is that the project comes in almost 3 times what we had allocated for it. Shouldn't we have a little more information? It's a big project, almost $500,000. Shouldn't we have a little more information as to why we're off by so much? What has changed?
Through you, Madam Chair, when we did the initial issue paper, it was unknown what the costs were. Staff put in $50,000 as a place marker, so right at the beginning we didn't have an original estimate at all. And
I appreciate that, that's fine. But since then, we've got a lot of information. What is it that we're doing there? Are we doing more? Has the school board decided to do more than they originally anticipated, or just what are we?
Through you, Madam Chair, the school board indicated that they did want to place sidewalks, curbing, as well as lighting within the parking lot, given the size of the parking lot, so we knew that. We just didn't know the initial costs. I went to parking staff and asked them what it cost per parking spot to do surface parking. The last project they did was Brahms Street. Although it's really difficult to compare the two projects, if you take a look at the cost per parking space at Forest Heights Collegiate, it's approximately $1,765 per space. And if you compare that with Brahms, and this is an estimate, the estimate for Brahms per parking space was $1,975.
I don't know the details. Does the is what's beneath the pavement at Forest Heights have to be changed, or
There's significant renovation that needs to be done to the site. They've done patching over the years, and at this point in time, they have to do a complete removal.
Was the school board surprised when they got the bill for $472 or not?
Through you, Madam Chair, I didn't get any indication that they were surprised or not surprised.
Thank you.
Councillor Davey?
Thank you. My question is how this relates to other facilities that the City of Kitchener owns and school boards share parking lots. Is this common throughout the city?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't have enough information to answer that question for you. I can get some more information if you'd like.
Okay. And just a confirmation from staff that this will be coming from some of the balance here. I see $22,400 will be coming from the same capital contingency we already took $350,000 from earlier today.
I am getting the nod from Mr. Chapman. That's correct.
So we're now down to $27,000 and change. Thank you.
Councillor Fernandez?
Yeah, I realized that this was something that was identified in the 2012 budget, but was this part of our business plan this year for work that was going to be done?
Through you, Madam Chair, this isn't a City of Kitchener project. This is a Waterloo School Board project, so it wouldn't be seen on any City of Kitchener project. The only thing that was in the capital budget was the $50,000.
Okay. So we would have identified this as part of our business plan in 2012, moving into 2013? That component then?
Through you, Madam Chair, this was placed in the capital budget during 2012 budget deliberations, yes.
Okay, all right. So it's not really, at first I thought it was a new project, but when I reread it, it's not a new project, it's just one that's been delayed in its implementation. Okay, thank you.
Mr. May?
Through you, Madam Chair, perhaps I can clarify. This is a school board project. They tendered the work. They'll be overseeing the work. The only question before council today is whether or not you will approve the funding for our portion of those parking spots. This is not our work.
Thank you. With that, would someone like to move it? Councillor Davey? Seeing no comments, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hildebrand. We will now move on to our last item in community and infrastructure services, the Big Music Fest contract and noise exemption and midway approval. Mr. Young?
Thank you. This July, the City of Kitchener will be hosting one of Canada's most exciting international music festivals, the Big Music Fest. For this event, over the past several months, staff have been working to ensure that we deliver a successful 3-day festival that contributes to the vitality of our city, promotes our growing music cluster, minimizes adverse impacts within our community, maximizes the positive outcomes within our community, and further promotes our city on a global scale. The three-day festival is also expected to generate significant economic benefits for businesses in our community this July. In addition, the Big Music Fest will provide our community with another high-quality entertainment option by joining existing large-scale music festivals that include the Kitchener Blues Festival, Koi Music Festival, Kulturun World Music Festival, etc. In summary, each year a number of events are presented to Council to identify those which will require a variety of exemptions or approvals due to the nature of the event. As such, staff are requesting the necessary exemptions and approvals based on the recommendations contained in the report for Big Music Fest in July. And just one final comment. The promoter, Mr. Mark Higgins, the president and owner of Big Music Fest, is also in attendance today and can answer questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. We have a few questions already. Councillor Gazzola.
Just a number, a number of questions. There'll be police required for this, and that is something that who will pay for? The extra police services.
Through the chair, those costs will be passed on to the event promoter, who will pay the full cost of those.
Will they be billed directly to the event promoter?
Typically what we do with the regional police with our events is they bill us and we pass those costs on to the event organizer.
Do we have any idea how much that might amount to?
Rough estimates, the plan is still being finalized by Waterloo Regional Police, but I pegged the estimates based on initial numbers as of about a week and a half ago at approximately $35,000 to $40,000.
Yeah. In view of that, is the letter of credit amount of $50,000 adequate for this?
Through the chair, based on the city costs that we have that I've tabulated, city costs directly related to the event, so road closures, park staff, custodial staff, cleanup, etc. On the high end should be in the $15,000 to $20,000 range.
But what happens? We're going to have to pay out the police costs. What happens with that if we're not covered?
Well, I'm confident based on working with the promoters team over the past several months and their track record and their desire to, if the public allows and council allows to come back year after year, that they would make do on all bills.
When it comes to liability insurance, that's not negotiable, right?
The number that's in the contract was provided by our city staff, which was put at $10 million. For a number of our events, our larger scale events that we put on throughout the year, that figure is typically $5 million.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm asking whether for an event of this size, whether $10 million is adequate. Are our insurers satisfied with that?
Through the chair, based on the feedback I've received from our internal staff, yes, they were.
Yeah, but how about our insurers?
Mr. Chapman.
Through you, Madam Chair, our insurer is represented through the staff of the insurance pool, and they have advised on the $10 million limit and are satisfied with it.
Okay. These free tickets and that, did we have an option as to whether we received monies or tickets?
Through the chair, the intent of the tickets was a good faith gesture by the promoter for this year, recognizing that there will be some impact, obviously, in the neighborhood, and it was an opportunity for engagement with the neighborhood associations. We had met with those individuals in late February, early March, the date escapes me, in order to engage the community and the residents in the area of a way to raise some funds for the neighborhood associations for programming that they may have throughout the year, or to do some contesting, just to try to have some fun and build a relationship between the promoters team and the community.
Are we satisfied that the municipality is going to recoup all the costs that it incurs, that this function incurs?
Through the chair, the portion that we're most closely managing from a city perspective would be the shuttling. So that would be the parking lots that we have available, where we receive 100% of the revenue from. And then in terms of these shuttles, what we've done with this particular event, because it's such a great unknown when we started, we went on the basis of 100% people driving to the event. That number has changed considerably considering the breakdown of where the tickets have been purchased. Tickets have been purchased. The breakdown now is approximately 70% within the Waterloo region, 30% being out of town. So having said that, the need for the number of shuttles that we had originally anticipated has gone down significantly. And I guess to bring that part all back together, the revenue that we generate from the parking spaces that we have available will go towards offsetting the cost of the shuttles.
Do we have a budget for this project? Any kind of a detailed budget?
I'm sorry, in terms of which costs?
Of everything. Do we have a simple statement that states here are the revenues coming in and here are the expenditures that we're going to incur, and hence here's the bottom line that the taxpayer will have to pick up if that bottom line is in red? Do we have such a statement?
We do have the cost from our internal staff. So in terms of what the road closures would be, our best guess estimates, much like we do for any event in terms of what the road closure would be, what the park setup costs would be, custodial staff, cleanup of the park, if it pours rain that weekend and more work is required, what those costs would be. And those come in around the $20,000 mark.
Can we be provided with a financial statement based on an estimate at this time as to here's our best estimates as to the revenues involved and the costs involved? Can that not be provided to council?
Yes, I can put that together.
Councilor Gazzola, that's all the time you have now. You actually had 6.5 minutes. I was being generous. Are you done with questions, or you have more? You can chime back in if you want to. Councillor Singh.
Yes, thank you. And some of my questions were answered through Councillor Gazzola. So one of the questions that was asked was obviously the cost recovery. I'm sure there has been a lot of effort that's been gone in organizing this event, and over the last little while I've been quite involved with staff in various different meetings as well. So the methods of cost recovery so far the report outlines is, of course, the revenue received through parking, as well as $2 per ticket.
Correct.
But that's tickets sold through city's own efforts, or?
Correct. Tickets sold through a city venue, so essentially what we would have sold through the city.
So the fact that I guess the Sunday event is already sold out, do we know at this point how much the city has been able to generate?
From tickets sold through the city, it's approximately $2,500. We were a little late in the game in terms of because Big Music Fest uses a different ticket provider than what we would use for example, say at the Odd. This year we just weren't set up to be able to take large numbers of ticket orders online or through tickets.
And of course, any parking you've already said is going to be more cost neutral, but especially you're saying that the reliance on shuttles will be lessened because almost 70% of the tickets sold is from the region itself. But again, the parking around the park itself cannot accommodate those numbers. So even though individuals may be from the region, they will still need to have parking requirements. Right? We're still factoring that aspect. I hope we're not being complacent thinking that because people aren't coming from outside the region, the parking requirements would lessen.
Through the chair, absolutely. We're looking at all that in terms of available parking that we have, that we're managing through the city. In addition, I've talked to a number of private businesses and churches who are looking to capitalize on the opportunity to raise some much-needed funds. as options as well. And then when you partner that with our shuttle lots available at Conestoga College, we'll phase in the downtown lots as well. Those are all being factored in.
So we've looked at liabilities for our own property, obviously, or the property that we lease, so McLennan Park from the region. One of the questions that was raised through a public information session that we had a while back by a resident was, some residents actually, liability concerns to their own property, properties that are adjacent to the park, as well as properties that residents that were concerned that as the event goers are leaving or coming to, that they may cause damage onto their property. Liability on that aspect, who would be covered through that? Who would be responsible for that? Would that transfer to Big Music Fest or the city? Or
through the chair, that would transfer to the promoter, Big Music Fest. Again, I'm not 100% sure in terms of what damage. Steps have been taken to mitigate anybody leaving the event premises. So McLennan Park will be completely fenced. There are no in and out privileges over the course of the weekend. So once you come in to attend the event, there's not a constant stream of people coming in and out.
Okay. I have one more question, and cognizant of the time as well, so more to you. The other is more towards operations and bylaw. A lot has gone to put this thing together, and I'm still a little bit perplexed as to how everything transpired. Help me to understand. It would be my understanding that, first a contract or agreement would be made with a venue by any promoter, and at that point the promoter would go out there and establish the event and go out there and assign whatever acts are going to be, playing at that venue. We've gone it backwards a little bit. I guess everything's been done, all the acts are signed, and now finally we're agreeing to the contract. Why this way? And why so late?
Through the chair, that certainly was not the ideal way that we managed the event. We had the opportunity presented to us through a fellow councillor who had some relationships with some local individuals. In terms of being able to notify council in advance, that certainly was the intent. There wasn't a launch that was scheduled to happen several weeks later. Unfortunately, the funding announcement came through. They were a recipient of provincial funding. That came out far sooner than was anticipated, which got the information in front of, unfortunately, coming in front of council and keeping everybody up to speed.
Okay. But lessons were learned, and we will be looking at changing some of those parameters as to how we go forward with events of this type. Do I have more time, or should I come back second go? Okay.
Councillor Etherington?
Just a couple of quick questions for Jeff or for Shane, perhaps. The policing of the noise levels, Jeff, how will we measure those levels? I presume we're policing them. So.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we've been in touch with the company that's responsible for the sound system, Metalworks, and they have representatives here today. Our staff will be monitoring the noise levels in the outlying areas to determine what the impact is going forward and using that data for future events. In my discussions with Metalworks, and if necessary, we can have a representative speak to this. In my discussions with them, it's believed that there will be very little spillover into the residential neighborhood based on the placement of the equipment and, of course, the quality of the equipment. There will be some spillage. As I understand it, it's a low frequency type of spillage, but I'm probably not the right person to answer specifically. So if you want more in-depth answers, Councillor Etherington, then I could have a representative from Metalworks speak to it.
No, that's enough, Shane, but you will have your people there monitoring the noise levels or not?
Yes, well, we're going to be taking noise readings in the outlying areas, in the outlying residential areas, and we're going to work with Metalworks to determine what are the optimum locations to take measurements from. However, having said that, that data, for the most part, that data is going to be used for planning for future events, since this is the first time we've had an event of this magnitude in the city, let alone McLennan Park. In terms of what will happen during the event, we don't anticipate that there's going to be decibel readings that we're going to find in the residential areas that would cause any type of a violation, notwithstanding the fact that they're going to be exempt, subject to council's approval of the noise exemption. They would be exempt from that provision anyway.
Okay, thank you. And I think my other questions would be for Jeff. One question, the report, Jeff, says significant economic benefits to local businesses in our community. What are those businesses? Presume hotels.
Through the chair, in chatting and meeting with our Waterloo Regional Tourism, it would include things like hotels, neighboring restaurants, our downtown businesses, the private businesses that are making their parking available, things like that.
Okay. And it also says it would benefit a large number of local vendors on site. Can you tell me a little about those vendors?
Yep, the vendors are still being confirmed by the team at Big Music Fest. But last I heard, the number or the percentage that were local, I believe, was close to 70% were local vendors that were going to be on site.
Okay. And I think I only had one other question, and I'm not trying to be smart here. The report says the neighborhood association representatives were energetic for the festival. Can you tell me what that means?
Yeah, we met with neighborhood association representatives from Alpine and Country Hills. This was end of February, beginning of March, where we laid out what the event was and what the plans were coming forward. And they were very excited, enthusiastic about an event like this coming to McLennan Park. Some of the comments that I've heard were that most of these events, they always see them as being downtown centric, whether they're on King Street or in Victoria Park, and they looked at it as a positive of having a space like McLennan Park being able to be utilized.
Just the editor in me, Jeff. It was a question about the word. Thanks very much for your help.
Thank you.
Councillor Yanetsky?
Yeah, thank you. Just a little different in terms of questioning that you've been receiving in terms of this whole operation. In the staff report on page 8-4, it talks about the midway. Is this like, I'm not too sure what you mean by midway. Is this typical midways that we have locally at the a couple of malls that we have for a weekend event, stuff like that, with rides and stuff of that nature?
Through the chair, so the midway is geared for families. So it'll include small children's rides, the carnival fair games, carnival fair food and whatnot. If you've been to our Rib Fest that takes place in Victoria Park each year, in years past they've had a small midway. It'd be something along those lines.
So will this midway be only available to patrons who have bought tickets and not the general public?
On Friday, the park is open, so it's free admission. So if families wanted to come down just for the carnival and weren't interested in seeing any of the musical acts that were going on, they could come down, spend the day at the carnival, presumably. But in terms of Saturday and Sunday, because the midway is within the fenced-in perimeter of the event site, you would require a ticket for Saturday and Sunday for the music festival in order to take part in the midway.
Would that also apply to the splash pad too, if you wanted to enjoy it? If it's going to be, let's say, a hot weekend, you wanted to enjoy it, or is that going to be totally closed off?
Correct. There are no plans to have the splash pad active that weekend. That's more for a safety.
Okay, so then even if it is a hot week and you want to cool off, you won't be able to enjoy it.
Well, I can tell you for any event, if we had a splash pad, we typically wouldn't have them operating just because of the slippages or potential of a slip or anything like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. In regards to parking, and I know you've got this plan laid out of transportation back and forth, etc., and parking locations. What's the scenario for the parking really nearby where the Laurentian Centre is, with the Zehrs, Rona, and Target, that plaza? as well as right really next door where the Tim Hortons is at Ottawa and Strasbourg in terms of people wanting to park there, but yet people still want to go do their groceries and shopping and pick up gas or whatever. How's that going to be monitored?
So I've talked to the property managers and property owners in some instances of the different plazas. So the BMO on the corner of Ottawa and Strasbourg, I believe it would be, as well as Forest Glen Plaza in behind McLennan Park, in addition to the security teams with Target who are in the Laurentian Power Center. All will have staff on site just to make sure that there's adequate parking for their customers throughout the weekend. They're viewing it as a positive. They recognize that BMO, for instance, or a TD Canada Trust, people are going to need to get money out of the accounts with the bank machines. There'll be ATM fees, Tim Hortons, for obvious, the gas stations that are on the corner, as well as even someone like Target recognizes that with the influx of people into the area, they see it as a real opportunity, whether it's sunscreen, ponchos, anything like that, to embrace the event and to embrace for that weekend of having an uptick in that area to capitalize on it. And
okay, appreciate that answer. Final question. With this event taking place, and if there is anything that unfolds that needs to have some major decisions done, who from staff is going to be on here to make the final decision to address it? I know you mentioned you're going to be there, but are you the one in charge, or is somebody else, or how does that work?
Depending what it is, from a security standpoint, Waterloo Regional Police will have a command post there. Anything that involves unruly patrons or security breaches of anything like that, of any serious note, Waterloo Regional Police will be there throughout the entire weekend to act on that accordingly. Throughout the event, Big Music Fest will have, I believe it's in excess of 100 security personnel that are within the event site, ensuring that things are going smoothly. People aren't trying to hop a fence to gain access into the event site. The servers in the portion that's a licensed area are all smart served. We've worked with the AGCO to not have a wide liquor license for the event. And I know that Big Music Fest, any private promoter would probably rather have a wide licensed area, but for this year we wanted to make sure things were going smoothly, and that's why I went with a licensed area to reduce the numbers and to reduce the number of people that are able to come and go within that licensed area to, again, ensure that it's the safest event possible.
So depending on the issue, that group, if it's a police security issue, those people will be responsible, but overall everything else would fall under whose hands?
For event-related, so general event-related, it would be myself. If it's park staff, Mr. Hummel and his team will be on site throughout the weekend. If it's bylaw-related, Mr. Turner and his team would be involved. We'll have traffic staff that have worked with Waterloo Regional Police in terms of the road closures for the end of the night. In terms of stage safety, there's an engineer that's on site, along with staff from the staging company to monitor if there's incoming weather, anything like that. It's a fairly sophisticated setup with the stage. I can't get into the particulars, but I know some of the folks from Big Music Fest could speak more on that. So depending what it is, there's a lot of people on site to be able to make decisions to ensure the safety of the event for the public.
Okay, and final question dealing
That's over 6 minutes, so if you want one more question, you can ring back in. Councillor Verbanovich.
Thank you. I only had one question, and that is further to the questions earlier about the various expenses and the $50,000 deposit. Obviously, based on your answers, all of the various components are going to be more than $50,000 if you take us in the region into account. And as a result of that, would it not make sense to increase that amount and have it reflective of what both what the anticipated bills are going to be, because they're going to have to be paid out, and the ticket revenues have been received already anyway, and the potential damages that we might have to incur?
So just one. Through the chair. Yes, that makes sense. We could certainly do that. It's something that we would have to negotiate with Mr. Higgins to alter that in the contract, but certainly something we could explore.
Okay, thank you.
Point of order. Do you need to?
Could we ask some questions of Mr. Higgins?
You're not
We
on.
can. His question is if we can ask questions of Mr. Higgins, and we can if that's the desire of council or committee. Sorry, we still have 2, 4, 6 more people lined up for more questions. So we can do that at the end, or unless something comes up during. But if anyone does have questions for Mr. Higgins, we can probably wait until the end and then call him forward. Councillor Varanovich, you're done?
Yes.
We will then go to Councillor Glenn Graham. And I'm moving so everyone has a first, and then I'll go back to second round.
Thanks very much. And my question, I just have one question. It's about the timing and access to the splash pad in the playground, when this site will be shut down to that. And I guess I'm looking at the relationship, the proximity of the splash pad and the playground to the actual concert area, and I'm wondering if we can't do something to allow people to get access. So could you talk a bit about that, please, Jeff?
Yep, through the chair, absolutely. So the entire park won't be closed down starting Sunday when they start to bring in materials. It'll be...
Sorry, Sunday, what's the Sunday before?
That would be the Sunday before,
okay.
Correct. Obviously, the majority of the activity would take place up towards the band shell or the gazebo, if you're familiar with the Great Lawn. But once some of the heavy machinery starts to come in with the forklifts and whatnot, that's when we'll start to close off the site, just from the aspect of safety for families and little ones who might be near the playground area, just to ensure that.
So is that midweek, Wednesday, Thursday? Or can you give us an idea of when the heavy machinery comes in?
I paused your time, so you're still good.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, so the fencing does start arriving, but as I've just been told by the team from Big Music Fest, the park essentially remains open, so the playground equipment, splash pad, etc., up until Thursday night before the concert.
Okay. And then it's shut down, and it's shut down until when?
We have, I believe it was noon on Monday before everything is completely reopened and we're back in business.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
You may want to confirm that with your team while Ms. Houston pipes in. I'm just seeing some questionable looks, Jeff, from over there, so you may want to confirm that. But Ms. Houston wanted to add something in the meantime.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As Council is aware, the washroom facility will be a construction zone till July the 19th, which also includes the splash pad. So the splash pad won't be open until after July the 19th.
So the splash pad has become pretty much a non-issue for the time being, and maybe just what we can do from a city perspective is start promoting the other ones in the area so that people know what other ones. They're not the same, I know, but just in the meantime, so that families still have an opportunity for that. You want to add?
Yep, sorry. Just to clarify, so the park would be completely open Tuesday at noon. The majority of the equipment is out Monday at noon.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Davey.
Thank you. My first question is with respect to the revenue generated. I thought I heard the $2 per ticket coming to the city was $2,500, and I understand there's going to be bumps along the way, but I think it's safe to assume that that's less than we anticipated?
Yeah. Through the chair, it was really an unknown. We didn't know how many tickets we'd be able to sell just because we were so limited. Originally, we'd explored the idea of selling them through community centers to really get the community to be able to purchase. At this time, we just weren't set up to do that. If this event was to take place in year 2, we'd certainly have the time to fully capitalize on the revenue from ticket sales, which, as you've probably read, have been very strong for the course of the weekend.
Okay, because it would seem, and again, this isn't my area of expertise, but it would seem that much smaller quantum on all tickets would probably be a smarter approach. But so my next concern then too is parking and the revenue generated from that. Do we have any estimates? Are we on target in terms of revenue expectations, or will we not know until the event itself?
Through the chair, no, it's going to be a moving target. The numbers continue to change each day, obviously going in the right direction of moving up. I can tell you that on Thursday late afternoon, we put on the website the first wave of school lots in and around McLennan Park that were available, and those sold out in just over a day and a half. Conestoga College continues to sell, but again, that was geared more towards assuming it was going to be the 70-30 split of out-of-town versus local. So that's a little bit smaller than what we had originally anticipated. And then the other thing that was the unknown at the time was the number of private lots that were going to open up. So, sorry to answer your question, parking is going well. We just communicated with the ticket buyers directly, which is a huge benefit for us to be able to do for all festival-related items. And based on that reaction over the course of the weekend, parking numbers have taken a significant increase because the message that went out was reminding people of the existing 3-hour bylaw and to avoid on-street parking, and then giving them other options in addition to our shuttles and available lots.
Okay. I mistakenly purchased my tickets not through the city, so I guess I owe Kitchener $2. But I did receive an email recently, which actually was very encouraging. I'm not sure if it was honestly from the promoters or from the city with respect to parking. Is there intention to send at least one, hopefully two more of those out prior to the event?
Absolutely. That was our first opportunity to reach out directly to the ticket buyers, which again is a huge benefit. The Big Music Fest was allowing us with the ticket company to be able to communicate directly to the ticket buyers to get the messaging that we want to have out in the community of multiple options of have you planned your visit to McLennan Park, whether it's close proximity parking, the shuttles, biking it, walking, carpooling, Grand River Transit, whatever it may be. We want to give people as many options as possible to get to the festival.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Councillor Fernandez.
Thank you. Just one question about the Conestoga College parking, and maybe Mr. Turner might be able to answer this better. We are going to be directing the parking to the lots, of course. There's a fee for that parking. How will we monitor the parking on the street in the area? Is that going to be a bylaw issue then?
I really don't foresee it being an issue in the Conestoga College area, because in order to gain access to the shuttle, you have to have what it is when you purchase, excuse me, your parking online, you get a voucher that you print out for your dashboard. So when you come in, you have to have that present in order to take advantage of the shuttle from Conestoga College. Okay, so that people can't park on the street and then just walk up to the shuttle and get on the shuttle then? No, if they chose to do that, it's a long walk to McLennan Park.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, second round of questions, Councillor Guzzola.
Going back to the parking, we're collecting the revenues from the parking. We're looking after all that, the administration for that. People pay in advance, is that it?
Correct. So that's what we've set up is for people to purchase in advance online.
Okay, now, with all these people, this brings us additional liability. How is that covered?
Liability in terms of?
We're opening up parking lots all over the place.
We've worked with the school board to rent out their parking. So similar to if we were renting the gymnasium, say, at a school, it'd be the same agreement that we would have. And we'll have staff on site at all the lots that we're staffing, and they'll have radios, as well as our corporate security team. We'll be doing a mobile trip throughout the school parking lots, checking in with our staff there. If there are any issues, they'll be able to react to it. If there's an issue when corporate security is not nearby, they'll be able to radio to our staff, and we can escalate it to our corporate security or to police that are in the area.
So you don't foresee any liability issues there with all our private parking lots that we're going to be opening up? No. Couple more questions. When did anyone at the city first become aware of this function? Can you tell me that?
The potential of the event?
Yes. Well, not the idea of bringing it here or questioning whether to have it come here or not. When did anyone at the city first discuss that?
Through the chair, I believe the first that I would have been involved and Parks would have been involved would be going back to mid-October, late October.
Of 2013?
Correct.
Mid-October 2013, and who would have gotten involved at that stage?
At that point, it was preliminary discussions in terms of Big Music Fest was currently operating out of Belleville. I know they had discussions with other cities. It was more exploratory at that point. With another member of...
Why wouldn't council be apprised somehow back then? We're apprised of everything.
At that point, it wasn't for sure. Like I said earlier, changes are coming to ensure that information is shared with council sooner as developments start to unfold, especially on a large event like this. It's been a learning opportunity and something that obviously we've taken very seriously internally and want to work with council to ensure that everybody is informed and we don't have those missteps moving forward.
I understand there's a substantial provincial grant attached to this function. Do we know how much that is?
Maybe when Mr. Higgins comes down, you can ask him that question.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any other questions, Councillor Zola?
No, I'll have a couple of questions to do with that. Thank you.
Councillor Singh?
Yeah, Jeff, quickly carrying on with parking, you've mentioned the school parking lots and them having gone fairly quickly. I remember from a recent conversation with you saying that the focus of the school parking near McLennan Park would not be for the event goers, but more for servicing, obviously that requirement for the promoter itself. Is that correct? Because there were some issues raised at the public information session of those parking spots.
Through the chair, yep, the plan is still to use some of those lots for staffing, whether it's Big Music Fest staff or our internal staff.
Okay, so we're going to try to limit the exposure of having the attendees park there then?
We're limited in terms of the number of parking spaces available regardless. The school lots accommodate anywhere from 40 to 50, 60 cars, so they're not large numbers.
Yeah,
and then the lots are monitored all day until the cars have emptied out as well.
Okay, all right. And as for downtown parking, the report also outlines that there's downtown parking garages that would be available along with shuttles to assist to ensure that we have a good uptake or knowing what the uptake is of those spots. Are we requiring the same thing that they have to print off a voucher to be able to get the shuttle pass?
Through the chair, correct. That's the best way for us to estimate the numbers of people that will be on the shuttles, is to be able to have something, whether it's a paid or a complimentary pass, is to be able to get those numbers online so that we can book in the proper numbers of shuttle staff, etc.
With the event only being a month away and the event almost being sold out for some time now, how many passes have we already sold out? How many parking spots of all the different lots that we have available?
Conestoga College is probably about 300 right now. When you look at the schools, total number of spots that we would have available.
Can you pause that time?
No.
Sorry, I'm just trying to dig through notes here.
I'll give you a little latitude at the end.
With the schools being sold, we have approximately 1,200 spots that we're confident that will sell through the city.
No, not comfortable. We're selling. How many have we sold thus far?
Probably about 30% so far.
30% of all the spots that we have. Okay. Yeah. And we're comfortable that we're meeting that requirement that we're going to limit the exposure on the neighborhood? That enough efforts being made to ensure that event goers understand that they will be exposing themselves to fines and tickets if they were to park on the street?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And that was the communication, again, that was sent out last week. It was our first opportunity to communicate directly to their inboxes, educating them on the existing 3-hour bylaw, ensuring that they are planning for their parking and how to get to McLennan Park. And we outlined a number of options.
I'm comfortable with absolutely, just because of the time limit. So for this event planning, how many different sites were looked at apart from McLennan Park when you were dealing with the promoter?
Well, I wasn't involved in all of them. I know Bud Park was looked at. I'm not sure Mr. Hummel could comment any further.
So out of the whole city, it was only between either Bud Park or McLennan Park?
Well, we looked at Victoria Park, but it wouldn't be able to accommodate the numbers. Downtown Kitchener is different. The Blues Festival gets significantly more people over the course of the weekend, but it breaks off into a few stages from Victoria Park to King Street to further down towards Frederick.
I had some questions for Mr. Hummel. Yep. Mr. Hummel, so a lot has already been talked about the actual site and the park itself and the exposure to the park, obviously, with the event. As for recently planted trees around the playground area, splash pad, and they're quite numerous, are we comfortable that they will be protected through the event, that they will be that area will be fenced off as well, or will there be a free flow of traffic through those tree area?
Through you, Madam Chair, there'll still be traffic through. I mean, ultimately, the trees were there for shade, so we would hope that people would utilize them. Based on staffing and security, there shouldn't be a lot of damage. We don't expect a lot of damage.
They're not providing much shade right now, but 2 years from now or 5 years from now, absolutely. But they've been recently planted, so my concerns were damage to them. And so the park usability. So as for fencing, the playground itself will be fenced off. So the event goers can't necessarily go into the playground area. Was it ever considered that the playground area may be accessible from the laneway aspect of it, especially because now that the dog park will be open and access to the dog park it will be through the trail network from Strasbourg? Was that ever in consideration for allowance of the playground area to be open through the event, along with the dog park?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think it was looked at early on to the extent of the fencing and the music festival. And I think at one point the fencing was further out. It's since been tightened up. Okay. In fact, at one point the dog park was going to be closed off, and ultimately we'll be installing signs pointing users to other locations for that weekend. And it's a matter of how does the music festival promoter and workers actually control access to the site, and they need to that limitation to the extent just outside of the volleyball, basketball playground area. So they will be fenced off.
Okay, so effort was made to.
But it certainly was looked at,
okay,
yes.
Okay. So it's just a couple brief questions to bylaw. So Shane.
You're getting a lot of latitude, just so you know. So try and shorten it up.
Just two questions.
Thank you.
For the parking strategy, obviously this will be a considerable undertaking. Do we have enough resources at our disposal, or are we going to be looking at a different strategy as a matter of enforcement?
Through you, Madam Chair, we're comfortable that with our existing shifts on the weekend, including our noise officers, parking and trail bike officers, we're complementing them with a number of part-time staff. Mr. Ventros is working on a schedule of rotating shifts so that we've got the afternoon and well into the evenings and late at night coverage. So we're comfortable that we're going to have adequate coverage.
That's for Friday as well. That was my only concern, that we may not be putting as much effort for Friday, but the focus is more on the Saturday and the Sunday.
Through you, Madam Chair, our focus is on all 3 evenings.
Okay, final question, event enforcement and fines. I know we've had some difficulty in having enough of a discouragement for people to park on the street because the fines are $20. So you said that staff will be looking at possible measures to have special event parking bylaw enforcement. And when would that be? When would staff be engaging in that direction? Or would staff be requiring direction from council to go with that?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't believe, given what we know right now, I don't believe that we require direction from council. I'm confident that we can move forward. I've talked to Mr. Reedman in transportation planning, and what we're going to be doing is using this event, as you've already heard today, use it as a learning experience. We are going to be looking at a provision that we could implement in our traffic and parking bylaw, like a special events parking bylaw or parking violation that we could use for pre-planned special events. I don't want to call it like a snow event, but it would be the type of thing that would only be enforced at certain times of the year under certain circumstances. Chances are we won't be able to start that discussion until with summer holidays and that probably September, but we're going to move forward in having that discussion and bring something forward to council early in 2015 prior to any special event season next year.
Councillor Yanetsky?
Yeah, question to Mr. Young. I know from all the work that you've been putting together along with your staff and other departments that safety is a very strong concern and making sure everything falls into place and you have no problems and it all works out in the end. And I know, having been up on that hill back over many times, it's a great location, spectacular view of the city. And it gets a little windy up there too. It's a nice cool breeze. But if the weather somehow turns, and I've seen some news broadcasts internationally that some festival or organization, the stage collapses or is caught by the winds. I think it even happened in Downsview in Toronto back last year or two. What protection do you have, and how secure will that be, knowing that the penetration into the ground and those issues with making sure that the load is spread across for stage equipment and all that, is that secure enough to address that, or how you deal with weather reports as well if it becomes that concern?
Through the chair, so there are engineers on site from the staging company, actually based out of Toronto, I believe, who we've been meeting with. They'll be on site throughout the event. The stage company also has 4 to 5 staff that are on site throughout the event. As well, there's a risk management professional that's brought on, hired through Big Music Fest, again, to monitor situations. In terms of, so there also is a real-time weather forecast specific to McLennan Park that's contracted out, again, through Big Music Fest, who can provide updates in terms of incoming weather, current weather, and then as well, I believe the stage has a number of different ways to monitor in terms of load stability, wind, all that kind of stuff to ensure the safety of the spectators and the performers. And then based on the risk management professionals document that they're putting together along with the stage company, there's various steps in terms of the weather that could be coming in if the wind is at X percentage or X speed. This triggers to happen. If it gets to this level, the next set of measures are put into place, so on and so forth, ultimately to the point of lowering the gear, lowering the stage, and getting entertainers and people away from the stage if it ever came to that situation.
Councillor Rabinovich.
Thank you. Just 2 other quick questions on the parking. One, which was the one concern or the point about all the emails going out. Obviously, I don't think that they would have everyone's emails. Are we going to have some large signs that sort of on the main collectors, I guess, going into the area, saying strict parking enforcement in effect for sort of coming into the entire subdivision?
Through the chair, yes, there will be signage. We have parking marshals that we'll have that we've identified throughout the neighborhood in and around McLennan Park. That way, if people who have not purchased a parking pass to be in that area, we'll be able to let them know, number one, where additional parking is, whether it be a local church or some of the businesses in that area, and also to remind them of the signage that'll be stationed right there of the existing 3-hour bylaw that's in place and discouraging from parking on street.
Okay, and the last question I have is, I know I've raised this earlier in terms of some of the parking and as well as getting some of the secondary tourism benefit in the city. What work has been done to utilize some of our parking garages? I'd see it briefly referenced in one of the reports, as well as working with the businesses in and around McLennan Park and in throughout the downtown to get some secondary benefits in our community.
Through the chair, yes, that's been very important. Is we want to take advantage of the number of people that are going to be coming in, whether they're out-of-town guests or as a 70% show from the Waterloo region, to get them downtown to experience our downtown and all the great things that we have going on here. So we're working with a local radio station right now. We're looking to firm up a deal where it would be essentially a welcome big music fest weekend in our downtown. We'd have some entertainment on the square. That would also be the primary pick-up and drop-off point for the shuttles, and then being able to engage the downtown restaurants, bars, eateries, etc., to program some live music on the Saturday and Sunday to encourage people based on the expected demographic of this show to come down, have a bite to eat, a dinner before the show, get on a shuttle, bus, whatever it might be, and then head into the event site.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's all the questions we have of you for now, Mr. Young, in just under an hour. Mr. Turner, you want to add something, and then we'll call Mr. Higgins forward.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, and I apologize for this. In a brief discussion with Metalworks, it was determined that there will be some sound testing that will take place on Thursday afternoon. So if it's appropriate, it may not be given it's going to be in the early afternoon to very early evening, but it may be appropriate to amend the noise exemption to include from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Thursday, July 10th.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Question of that specifically? Mr. Turner, Councillor Singh has a question with respect to just that point.
Yeah, it's understandable that they would have to do some testing beforehand, but can it be limited? Does it has to be as late as 7 o'clock? Can it be shorter than that, or can you ask? The effort will be made to be in the early part of the afternoon, though. Okay. That's all I wanted to ensure.
Okay. Through you, Madam Chair, we will work with Metalworks and see if we can get it limited as early as possible.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, Mr. Higgins. We're ready for you.
Oh, for me?
Yep.
This is exciting.
The first question that was already asked that we'll get you to answer, and then there's a couple people who want to ask you questions specifically, is the amount of the provincial grant that you received.
$274,440.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Etherington.
Yeah, Mr. Higgins, thanks very much for coming in.
Okay.
Are you sorry yet you came to Kitchener?
No, actually, I'm quite enjoying this. I mean, there is a lot of questions. It's a very, very big show.
Yeah.
So great things have great challenges. I'm very comfortable with the city team. Obviously very comfortable with my staff. I'm very much looking forward to getting through the first year. I wish we're 32 days away. I wish we were 42 days away. Then everybody will have their comfort and we'll feel if we should all move forward. What I find very exciting is the fact that 67% of the Kitchener-Waterloo region are coming. The initial thought that the vision I had was it would be about 50-50. But this is actually better. I mean, the people of the immediate region have embraced the show. They want this kind of talent in their backyard, so to speak. So that's a really good, it's a good component to have going in.
I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
There was a story in the Record, the local paper, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, detailing how the history of your event and that it's moved around several communities. Can you give me any reason why it has not put down more permanent roots in
Yeah,
one of those
absolutely.
communities?
Well, because the vision has expanded, meaning me, and not with weight. That's happened naturally. Belleville, I was there for 6 years, Owen Sound 3 years, including the one Wyerton Hip Show. I have 1.2 million people that can drive within 1 hour to come to this region. Done my research, due diligence, whatever, dreaming, vision, and it's paying off. It's actually where it should be right now, with the people have purchased, and where the outreach program has worked well. The other communities couldn't sustain something of this magnitude. Keep in mind, this is an international show. I mean, there's not even a 3-day festival in Toronto that has this kind of weight attached to talent. You got the 1 day at the Molson Amphitheatre, 1 day at the ACC. This is 3 days. And it's an expanding horizon. So the moving parts will settle after the show. That's why I know there's angst in Belleville. They're very upset that I couldn't go back. I've enjoyed that level. And now I believe that I brought my company to the finest level. And I believe, and it's proving, that this region can handle it.
Okay, you've heard our concerns about costs, and in the other communities you've been to, what's the largest amount of cash you've paid any one municipality?
It's $70,000, and I'm prepared to go to that because of the new information that's coming in for the deposit. Let's reference the deposit, 70. Okay, and I'm prepared to go from 50 to 70. I understand you can't have total trust with this show, and you really don't know me. So we do have to go through it. I think the financial impact through tourism and everybody having a sense of pride after we're finished, well, everybody will just have a better feel of what's going on if we move forward. Obviously, if I don't make X amount of money or I don't feel comfortable, this is a non-issue. But at this point, my vision is to continue, and I'm prepared to go to $70,000 from 50 for the deposit.
Do you put that up in?
Yes, of course,
in
certified
front,
check. Yeah.
In front of the event?
Absolutely.
Ahead of the event?
Yeah, and all my bands are all paid in full.
Okay.
All my suppliers. I mean, this is a very expensive show, so you can't go into it nickel and diming.
Yeah.
And safety is paramount when it comes to the show, because that's what actually brings me back, is having a great safety record.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Councillor Singh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Higgins. And of all the concerns that are outlined, I hope you can acknowledge and take to heart it's not necessarily towards Big Music Fest or the fact that this type of event is happening in our community. It's more to the site. The site is very sensitive. It's very unique, being in a very inbuilt area and not accommodating the numbers that are anticipated for your event. And as I had asked earlier, what other sites were looked at, and it was outlined Bud Park and McLennan Park were the only primary two.
Well, they're the only sites, Paul, that actually made any sense because
Right.
of the magnitude of the population we're bringing in.
So
I think it's kind of nice that we're where we are at McLennan. It's very original. The backyard parties are going to be over the top. I mean, it's 13.5% of the immediate area are coming to the show.
Right.
That's probably 1.5 per house. So from
it was the Big
It was
Music
the
Fest
only-
it was Big Music Fest preference over
Absolutely.
over Bud Park. even?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, in consultation with the Parks and Rec, it was the only park that could sustain something of this magnitude. And leaving Belleville and Owen Sound and the other smaller pockets, I didn't want to just do something just a notch above. So
Yeah.
McLennan actually makes sense.
Well, absolutely. It will be an interesting trial to see
Yeah,
how it's
absolutely.
accommodated, and I think there will be lessons learned from it.
For
And,
sure.
and I appreciate the fact that you yourself are graciously willing to increase the deposit to 70,000.
Yeah, well, it makes sense
Yeah.
after hearing those numbers today. I've been away for 3 days,
Right.
so this is new information and the first time hearing it, so it makes sense.
And there was another component that was raised as well that is still a matter of concern, which is the amount that would be payable to the region for the police services for their requirement. Is there an issue if that bill were to be paid directly to you rather than coming to the city and then you reimbursing the city back again and city giving it to the region, having multiple channels rather than that bill be directly to Big
I
Music
prefer
Fest?
the way we're going right now, Paul.
Okay.
It makes more sense. It's simplistic. There's a lot of suppliers, a lot of people involved with a show of this level. So if I can isolate it and just give the 70,000 certified check to the city, I'd prefer to do that.
Rather than to the region?
Well, pardon?
It's not simplistic right now. That's the whole issue. Right now, the region bills the city. The city bills Big Music Fest.
All right, is there
Big
a
Music
plan?
Fest pays back to the city pays back to the region. What I was saying is, would it be an issue if, that billing was directly to Big Music Fest, negating the exposure
I
onto
understand what you're
Kitchener.
Through the chair, sorry if I can clarify. So the increase up to the 70,000 should encompass the anticipated police costs,
Everything.
city costs, everything in there, going from the 50 to the
Were you
70.
here at the initial stages, Paul, when they went from with 50 and one of the councillors brought forth, and I believe it was Scott, or sorry, Barry mentioned that that wouldn't be enough? Were you here for that? I'm just wondering.
Yes, I was here.
Oh, okay.
My only question is why? Why would there be a hesitance to rather bill Big Music Fest directly rather than having multiple parties involved? I've been involved throughout the entire conversation, and you know well, I've been very extensively involved and concerned about the residents that I represent. So I've been very encompassed in the entire process.
I think he was just talking about earlier when we went from 50 to 70. I don't think he's questioning you overall. So
I've been here the entire time, Madam Chair.
Let's let Jeff answer the question with regards to billing. Should the police bill us versus Big Music Fest?
Thanks. Through the chair, that's typically what the police do with our events, is they'll bill through us. It's just easier for them to bill directly through us, and then it's one point of contact. They treat us as a client, and it's just easier to manage and recover that way.
Okay. All right. Well, if our staff feels comfortable that is we're limited exposure to the city, I'm comfortable with that. But I need to hear from staff as well. And as part of that, Madam Chair, I'm willing to amend the amount required for deposit from 50 to 70,000 as part of the motion. Thank you, Ms.
So
Reagan.
we still have one more question, but you're willing to move the recommendation with that amendment and the other amendment?
I'm just willing to add the amendment.
Okay, you're not willing to. Okay, that's fine. Councillor Gazzola.
Yeah, thank you for sharing the amount of the provincial grant. The only other point or question I wondered with it is it's a substantial amount of money, and is that something that will be repeated from year to year?
Hopefully it grows. There is an amount of $300,000 that I would like it to see it go to. This show is an extremely expensive show, and I believe the vision with Celebrate Ontario, they understand the impact it's going to have on the economy here. And keep in mind, the other 3-day festivals and some of the 2-day festivals have been getting it for several years.
So this is something you're expecting?
Well, I would certainly
forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that's all our questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now Councillor Davey. Okay, Councillor Davey. So you're going to, let's just be clear, you're going to move the recommendation in front of us. Mr. Turner's asked for an amendment with regard, or an addition, I guess, with regards to the Thursday. You're moving it with that? Okay. And then Councillor Singh, you're going to move the addition of $20,000 to the deposit. Okay. So we will vote on those separately because there are two movers. I ask that we have 9 minutes left until we're done this committee, and there's already a couple people who want to comment. I don't want to stop that, but I ask us to be very succinct. We've asked a lot of questions. We've made a lot of points. We've pretty much planned the event in the last hour and a half. So if we can just keep that short, then we're perfect. So Councillor Singh, you are first.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And with an event of this magnitude, enough oversight is never enough. And I have been very cooperative and enjoyed the relationship with Big Music Fest in the last little while in the planning stages since I've been involved of this year, and as well as staff in ensuring that the concerns of the neighborhood is highlighted, as well as the sensitivity to this event appropriate to that neighborhood is ensured, and at the same time to be supportive of the event of this magnitude happening in City of Kitchener. I have from the beginning been supportive for economic development generators, and this being as such, I think it speaks great volume to the city to be able to attract an organization as Big Music Fest, and again an event of this magnitude. So enough can't be said of the positives that will come from the economic driven through this. The issues on the onset that I've had, and I think I've been quite forthcoming, so there's no surprise or secret to that, I had issues with how this evolved. from the initially how the conversation started and until when this became more of a public discussion, and as to when the neighborhood was involved as well. It shouldn't have taken for the ward councillor to encourage public conversation, public involvement, especially when something like this is happening in someone's backyard. This should have been something that was automatic and as part of the planning. So those are things that needed to be fixed, and those are things I'm still not very comfortable with. I had requested for changes in policy, and I think irresponsibly that was deferred to a later point. I think that needed to have happened far earlier, especially before this event happened, but that hasn't happened yet. That policy is going to be further delayed. It was to come today, but now it will be delayed a little further. And so the process is not fully correct. There are problems in the process. And because of that, and no other reason, on this term of council, I've never abstained from a vote. I understand it's considered as a negative vote, but this is one time I can appreciate why some have abstained in the past when they struggle, when they support some aspect of it, but they have exception to other portions. So simply put, I'm supportive of the event. I'm supportive of this organization being in Kitchener and this type of event happening in future years as well. But I am concerned with how this was brought about. I have issues with the process, and I have issues as to how it will affect the residents of Ward 6, and for that reason, I will abstain.
I just want to be clear, from both parts, or just because you can't move your amendment and the main motion? Okay, thank you. Councillor Glenn Graham.
Thanks. I also support the recommendation and with the amendments. And perhaps I can ask you, Madam Chair, or the clerk, I have an amendment as well, and I was wondering, there's 2 amendments on the table, and I think there's a limit to those, so maybe this would be a new motion. I don't know.
I personally would like you to get it out there, at least so that we have it. I may not be able to deal with it procedurally till later, but I think we at least need to hear it now.
Absolutely. It's simply of the 106 tickets, that 6 free tickets be donated directly to ROOF, Reaching Our Outdoor Friends, and so I just have the breakdown written out.
Of the ticket numbers?
Of the 106 tickets that are being donated by Big Music Fest.
So it's basically 6 to ROOF, 40 to the residents.
Exactly, 40 to the neighborhood by lottery, and 60 to the surrounding neighborhood association. So I've just written that out.
That's fine. I think we can handle that.
So I can give that to the clerk if he wants to put it on the overhead, or it's not a big deal.
I think it's explanatory. Thanks. Councillor Etherington.
Through you, Madam Chair, for a variety of reasons, I've always had some concerns about this event and the way it went ahead without adequate consultation with residents and council. I don't know how many times we have to learn the lesson of getting out in front of these situations and providing more information to the public. I think if we'd done that, we wouldn't be going through this kind of grilling for Mr. Higgins. Hopefully, those event organizers and staff will have no regrets after the event, and I would ask that in the name of transparency, the council and the public receives all details that come out of post-mortem examination of the event and discussions between our staff. And I will be supporting the recommendation.
Councillor Gazzola?
Yes, I'll support the recommendations that are before us, and I wish the group well and our community well. I hope everything is successful. I, from the get-go, was quite upset with this whole issue because we started talking about it, some people, back in October of last year, but first thing I ever heard about it was when I read it in the paper, and I don't think that's the way things should operate. So hopefully that'll be not repeated in the future, and that what can promise to be a very successful event will be such. I asked today, and I'm looking forward to getting something within the very near future, is an estimated financial statement for the city's portion of this program. I'm sure the promoter has his set of financial statements and budgets on where they expect to go, and the city, I feel, should have the same thing. And I don't, this is something I want to see before the event, and then we can compare as to how our plans go with the actual event, which I understand there will be follow-up. So again, I wish them well, but in the interim, I would like to see the roadmap, the financial roadmap that the city has in front of it for this function.
Okay. Councillor Singh?
Just a quick question, Madam Chair. The report outlines that there would be something that would come back to Council after the event. I wanted to ensure if staff were planning on conducting a neighborhood engagement meeting, a public meeting after the event, just to take in feedback. Was that already envisioned, or should that be directed through the motion?
Go ahead. Sorry. I saw you coming forward. I didn't think I needed to acknowledge you. Go ahead.
Through the chair, yes, that'll be part of it. Will be neighborhood engagement post.
Meaning a public meeting will take place in, say, August or September.
Yeah, because we want to know everything, whether it's good, whether it's bad, and how we can improve, whether it's this event moving forward or how we can apply that to other events moving
Just trying to ensure that it's going to take place, or do you want direction from Council that will happen, or it will happen automatically?
Oh, it will happen.
Good.
Absolutely.
That's what I wanted to confirm.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Verbenovich?
Thanks. Just before I make my comments, I just want to ask one question in terms of the amendment that we're going to be considering pertaining to Ruth. And there's been a lot of work done by staff in terms of trying to make this as unbiased as possible. And I'm just wondering why is Ruth being suggested and not the Working Center or KW Habilitation or any one of 100 other organizations in our community? I'd like to understand the rationale before I can support it.
Councillor Glenn Graham?
Simply put, it's because they're young people who wouldn't have the resources and access to that. Other organizations also would be worthy, but they don't predominantly cater to youth.
Okay, well, I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with that, so I'll think about that amendment when we come to it. It concerns me that when staff have developed a non-political process, we're now trying to politicize something, which concerns me deeply. Having said that, I will be supporting the motions and the amendment before us. I think one of the things, and I share many of the concerns that have been expressed around the horseshoe, around how this has come about and so on, recognizing that, it's also not uncommon for us as a city to have at a staff level some initial involvement with people who are considering investing in our community before those types of situations become public. Having said that, I think one of the things we can't lose sight of here is the fact that this particular event is helping put Kitchener on the map from a music point of view. It's going to add to the quality of life and the music opportunities that exist in our community. It's consistent with our Music Works initiatives that, as a council, we've been focusing on for a number of months now. And it's going to have significant economic impact that will no doubt help our hotels, help our restaurants, help our other businesses, and so on. Obviously, we want to look at this long and hard after it's done to see, how is that quantified, and does it make sense from a go-forward basis? But I'm quite pleased that we're having this opportunity as a city to host this level of acts in our community, and it only adds on to the many other successes that are mentioned in the report, such as Blues Fest, such as Cool Troon, such as the Jazz Festival up in Waterloo, and the Koi Music Festival here in Kitchener.
Jeff, did you want to add something quickly?
Yes. Sorry, one additional point. In terms of the tickets, There is some challenges there. There are letters that are printed to go out to the residents in the neighborhood, outlining the plan for the 106 tickets. So at this point, they're, aside from reprinting all of the letters.
Okay, the amendment is being withdrawn, so thank you for that information. Councillor Fernandez.
Thank you. This has been quite an interesting process watching all of this happen and play out, and I think that there's going to be some interesting challenges and outcomes from this whole music festival. I think it's going to be very interesting to see the people coming from out of town into Kitchener, to see how they benefit our city in the various different ways, but it also will be, I'm sure, interesting to see how the response for the residents who live in the area and how they feel about the festival. I think it's interesting to see that we have close to 70% worth of sales from the region itself. I'm glad to see that, because that may mean that we'll reduce our carbon footprint in terms of the number of cars driving here for the, just looking at it from an environmental perspective, Mr. Higgins. I'll be excited to hear the outcomes from this festival. I think there's some, as always, there's positives, there's negatives, there's challenges, and I hope that we have learned a number of lessons as we go forward on how this was originally brought forward to council. I'd like to ask for a recorded vote. Thank you.
I assumed that was going to happen. I have a quick question before I turn to our last comment. We've talked a lot about parking, and it just dawned on me when Councillor Fernandez was speaking. Do we have plans to bring in bike racks? Because we do have a lot of people coming from the region, and that may be an option for people to transport themselves.
Through the chair, my apologies, I did neglect that as one of the options. We will have a bike valet service on site, and we are encouraging on the email for folks who live within the city to take their bike and come to McLennan Park, park it safely, and at the end of the night, bike home.
Perfect.
Because there are a number of trails that connect directly to McLennan Park.
Perfect. You've thought of pretty much everything, it sounds like. Councillor Davey.
Bike valet service. I have an image of a bellhop taking my bike. Anyway, yeah, I just want to very quickly thank Mr. Young. He faced a bit of a, I don't want to say a grilling, but there's a bit like testimony here for quite a while. I thought you did very well. As well, Mr. Higgins and Metalworks. I think the moment that I think a lot of us really relaxed here is when he acknowledged, number one, that he didn't have any issue bumping the credit up by $20,000, and also acknowledging the reality that we do not know each other, and this is the beginning of hopefully a long relationship, and that was an excellent step in the right direction. This is a big deal. I'm very excited about it. I'm happy to move it, and there will be bumps along the way. There has been bumps along the way. We absolutely need to relook at how council approves these sorts of events and how early we know and what we actually need to know. I recognize all of that, but in the end, I'm hoping everyone's taking away that this is a very exciting opportunity for the City of Kitchener, and I can't wait for it to occur.
Perfect. That was our last commenter. I'm not going to make any because I feel like a lot's already been said, but good work by staff. I know it's been a very big undertaking. Thank you to Mr. Higgins and your whole crew. I think, with all the questions that were fired at you, you had answers to everything, and it looks like you've looked at everything from pretty much every avenue, but I'm sure there will be some lessons learned, and that's okay. Councillor Gazzola, did you have... Oh, well, your finger put on your microphone, so that's why I was checking in with you. Okay, so we have two things to vote on here. The first thing we are going to vote on is the amendment by Councillor Singh for the increased deposit to $70,000. A recorded vote's been asked for. Perfect. That's carried unanimously, so I don't know if we need to stand because everyone is unanimous. And then we have the second part, which is the recommendation by staff with the addition for the noise exemption to include 2 to 7 p.m. on Thursday, July the 10th. So can recorded vote. Those in favor? sorry, those vote. And that carries unanimously. So thank you very much to everyone, and that is the conclusion of Community and Infrastructure. No. Yep, we can retake that. I was a little surprised by the outcome, but we will avoid that vote and do that one again. So we are dealing with the staff recommendation as well as the addition of the Thursday noise exemption. Everyone vote, please. So those in favor? Those opposed? There is one opposed because there was an abstention. Councillor Singh's in the room, therefore his abstention counts as a negative vote. With that, we conclude Community and Infrastructure Services. And I think we'll take a 3-minute